Good morning students, welcome to the English class. I am Dr. Tripti Gupta from Shivjyoti Education Group, Kota. So today we are here with our Beehive book, chapter number 7, Packing, which has been written by Jerome K. Jerome. So students, before moving to the chapter, let us first know something about the author here, Jerome Kalpka Jerome. So he was born on 2nd May 1859 and he was an English writer and humorist. Basically, his writing style was based on humor. Best known for the comic travelogue, Three Men in a Boat, and the chapter Packing is also an extract from the same book, Three Men in a Boat. So, now let us start with the chapter here and we will go from the book itself. So, students, let us start with chapter number 7, Packing here. As we know that this is a travelogue and this extract is thematically based on a packing in total event which was being taken by three friends, Jerome, George and Harris. So, these are the three friends who were packing for a trip. Now, here this chapter is completely a very humorous chapter and completely based on how how they all three went ahead with the packing session of various articles which they felt that they would require during the journey, during their trip. Now, the story is basically that how different instances happened, what all things they packed and what the number of times they opened it, they repacked it just because they forgot some things, and that is how the things moved on and they kept on packing, repacking and making lots of chaos, and during that chaos there were lots of humor which the author has basically described the chapter. So, first of all, let us the chapter starts with the plot starts with where Jerome, he was offering to his friends Harris and George, they were about to pack a bag, and Jerome, who considered himself to be the best packer, so he offered that I said I would pack. So, he offered that he would pack. I rather pride myself on my packing. Packing is one of those many things that I feel I know more about than any other person living. So, pride myself on, here this phrase means am proud of. So, the author here, he was proud of his packing skills and that is why he considered himself to be the best packer. So, considering that, he came out with an offer that he would pack. Rather it would be, I am impressed the fact upon George and Harris told them that they had better leave the whole matter entirely to me. They fell into the suggestion with a readiness and had something uncanny about it. So, here there is another phrase, fell into. That means they very readily they accepted the offer which Jerome gave them, that probably he would be able to pack it well, so let him do. So, they readily accepted the offer and they that was quite weird, and uncanny is the word been used, something uncanny about it. So, actually author was not been expecting that it would be so easy for them to just withdraw from the activity and move on, and just to keep aside and viewing and just taking a view that how the things are, how he is packing. So, it was quite strange and weird for the author Jerome. George spread himself over the easy chair and Harris cocked his legs on the table. So, both the friends, they took their positions and they rested well, and they were just being a viewer over there. As viewer, they were on the rest and they were watching Jerome packing the things. This was hardly what I intended. So, this shows here that Jerome, when he offered for packing, the intention for offering that packing was not exactly the reason what he meant actually. What he meant was that what I had meant, of course, was that I should boss the job and that Harris and George should potter about under my directions, I pushing them aside every now and then with, oh you, here, let me do it, there you are, simply enough, really teaching them, as you might say. So, the intention was to boss the job, to supervise the complete job of packing. That was the intention with which he offered for packing and tried to make them to understand that he is good at packing. So, you should take the instructions, both of you pack according to my instructions. But nothing such happened, and in the situation both his friends, they retreated back and they finally they left everything on George's shoulders to be packed by him. So, basically with this the situation went odd, and George was compelled to go ahead with what his words, and that made him irritated because he was finding both his friends been sitting idle and watching him like that. So, that was been quite irritating for Jerome. Now, so they did irritated me. So, finally the complete packing session and finding both of his friends to be sitting idle and on rest was irritating Jerome. There is nothing does irritate me more than seeing other people sitting about doing nothing when I am working. So, basically the situation just went vice versa. He wanted to supervise the job, rather what happened is that he was been working and both of the friends were been relaxing and just sitting idle and looking at him doing the packing. I lived with a man once who used to make me mad that way. So, there was a background why why Jerome got so irritated because of that complete session of finding people sitting idle, his friends sitting idle over there. So, there is a complete background because he spent his childhood and there probably his fatherly figure, but it is not very clear, but the way he is saying that he lived with the man once who, so probably his father must be like that, and what he was been after is he would loll on sofa and watch me doing things by the hour together. He said it did him real good to look on at me messing about. Now, I am not like that. I can't sit still and see another man slaving and working. I want to get up and pretend and walk around with my hands in my pockets and tell him what to do. It is my energetic nature, I can't help it. So, this is what exactly happened during his childhood. His that man used to sit on sofa and he used to direct him, and he used to person used to supervise him, and that made him quite happy about finding him to be handling all the mess and struggling with the things, but not helping him out coming out, and he was just been relaxing. So, that used to be the background which made him quite irritated, but now the things have changed. He is a grown up man, and now in a vice versa role he wanted to superintend all the activities rather than actually doing it by himself. So, that is what exactly made him to be a bit irritated. Now, next stanza here, let us move to the next paragraph. However, I did not say anything, but started the packing. It seemed a longer job than I had thought it was going to be, but I got the bag finished at last and I sat on it and strapped it. So, he started his packing, and out of his expectation, the work was taking long. It was a long tedious job, and he did it. Finally, he strapped the bag, means there were straps for locking it, and he used those straps, and he finally completely strapped it on, and finally the bag that he was been packing was been closed. Now, aren't you going to put the boots in? Said Harris. And I looked round and found I had forgotten them. That's just like Harris. He couldn't have said a word until I had got the bag shut and strapped, of course. And George laughed, one of those irritating, senseless laughs of his. They do make me so wild. So, what exactly happened after he had strapped the bag? Immediately after that, Harris came out with a question that are you packing this set of boots in the bag? So, he had actually forgotten the boots outside, and the moment he realized that he had forgotten, immediately it struck him that probably Harris had intently kept quiet till the time he was been strapping and closing the bag. He would have just notified that he had forgotten the boots earlier also, but he did not do so. And on the other hand, George, he was been laughing and making a mockery of the packing skills for which he felt that he was been proud of. So, Jerome was been feeling irritated of George been laughing on his packing skills. Now, I opened the bag and packed the boots in, and then just as I was going to close it, a horrible idea occurred to me. Had I packed my toothbrush? I don't know how it is, but I never do know whether I have packed my toothbrush. Now, as he was being reminded, he packed the boots, and the moment he was about to close or strap the bag again, another idea struck him, and he was being having a question arised in his mind whether he had packed his toothbrush or not. Now, this question is a bothering question to Jerome all the time whenever he used to travel. Packing toothbrush is all time a botheration for him, because every time whenever he used to go anywhere, toothbrush used to make lots of chaos and mess in his complete packing. He used to forget, he used to keep countering, asking himself that whether he had packed it or not. So, these kind of questions make him bothered about packing of his toothbrush. So, similarly in the same fashion, this time also he was stuck with the same question. Now, to identify the answer, to find out whether he has packed his toothbrush or not, he started, my toothbrush is a thing that haunts me when I am traveling and makes my life a misery. So, this is a haunting aspect, whether his toothbrush has been packed and or not, and to find the answer makes his life to be miserable. Okay. So, I dream that I haven't packed it and wake up in a cold perspiration and get out of bed and hunt for it. So, this used to be a regular practice whenever he used to travel. All of a sudden the idea comes to his mind, and then he used to, just out of anxiety, he used to come out with lots of perspiration and sweat. He used to come out in anxious manner and find out whether he has packed it or not, and then to find out he used to unpack everything, and then finally he found that he has not packed it. I pack it before I have used it and have to unpack again to get it, and it is always the last thing I turned out of the bag, and then I repack and forget it and have to rush upstairs for it at the last moment and carry it to the railway station wrapped in my pocket handkerchief. So every time in the morning whenever he wanted to use his brush, he used to take it out again and then he used to forget it, and after while he is moving out of the home towards railway station, he will again the things strike him about the toothbrush, and then he will run to fetch it again back, and finally it happens that the toothbrush goes with him wrapped in his pocket. So this is all things happen so in a very chaotic manner about his toothbrush. So that's why he concludes that toothbrush always makes him to be miserable. Now of course I had to turn every mortal thing out now. Every mortal thing, that means every ordinary thing, all the stuff which was being packed. So, and of course I could not find it. So he started finding out his toothbrush as the idea struck him. So as he was been taking out all the things, but he was unable to find his toothbrush. I rummaged the things up into much the same state that they must have been before the world was created, and when chaos reigned. Of course, I found George and Harris's 18 times over, but I could not find my own. So as he was been struggling finding the toothbrush, so what exactly happened is he found the toothbrush of George's and Harris, but finally what happened, he was unable to find his toothbrush even once. So he was been struggling to identify where his toothbrush is been. Now, so as he was been turning all the things upside, and he was been trying to put all those things back one by one, I put the things back one by one and held everything up and shook it. So he was been just shaking, he was shaking everything so that he can find out where his toothbrush is been stuck in whatever other stuff. So finally then I found it inside a boot. I repacked once more. So at the end he found his brush to be there inside a boot, and finally he found his toothbrush and he packed it. Now finally the bag was also been repacked. When I had finished, George asked if the soap was in. I said I didn't care a hang whether the soap was in or whether it wasn't. I slammed the bag shut and strapped it, and found that I had packed my spectacles in it and had to reopen it. So as he was been repacking the bag after finding his toothbrush, another question arised from George, and he was inquiring about whether you have packed the soap or not. So, but giving a damn care to this to find the answer whether the soap is being packed, he just packed the bag, and as soon as he packed the bag, it struck his mind that he has placed his spectacles inside the bag, and now the bag was been repacked again. Now finding this idea, finding that his spectacles are there inside the bag, compelled him to reopen the bag third time. It got shut up finally at 10:05 p.m. and then there remained the hampers to do. So finally after packing, then repacking, then unpacking and then repacking 3 times, finally the packing of that bag was been done by 10:05 p.m. But still there was some more packing which was left, and they were the food hampers, baskets of food which were required to be packed. So that was been still left to be done. Harris said that we should be wanting to start in less than 12 hours time, and thought that he and George had better do the rest, and I agreed and sat down and they had a go. So finally, Harris and George, they offered that probably it's been high time and it's hardly there are 12 hours been left to start with the journey. So, let us they offered their service to they offered that they both Harris and George will now take up the rest of the packing, that means the packing of the hampers, and finally author Jerome, he agreed for that and he took a rest and he found a proper position seat so that he could watch how Harris and George are going to take up the next session of packing of hampers.